I never thought I'd be the one paying for my parents' 30th wedding anniversary party. Then again, I never thought I'd end up destroying it either. My name is Eloise, and I've always been my family's ATM wrapped in a disappointment. You know that feeling when your phone rings and your stomach drops? That's how I feel every time I see mom or dad flash across my screen. It's never, "How are you?" It's always, "We need." The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was finishing up designs for a major client. Dad's voice crackled through the speaker, uncharacteristically soft. "Princess, your mother's heartbroken. We wanted to do something special for our anniversary, but with the market being what it is." I muted my microphone and let out a long breath. Here it comes. "We thought maybe you could help since you're doing so well with your little, what do you call it, freelancing thing?" I unmuted. "It's a design agency, Dad. I own my own business." "Right, right. Your sister Trinity just bought their second vacation home, you know. But this isn't about that. Your mother really deserves something special." My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling slightly. "How much are you thinking?" "Oh, nothing extravagant. Maybe 8, 10,000. We found this beautiful venue." I nearly choked on my coffee. $10,000? "Well, Princess, if you can't manage it," his voice took on that familiar, disappointed tone, "we'll just have to do something small. Your mother will understand. She always does." The guilt settled in my stomach like lead. I thought about all the times mom had understood: my high school graduation party canceled because Trinity needed new furniture, my college acceptance celebration downsized to pizza because dad had investments to consider. "I'll handle it," I heard myself say. "That's my girl. I'll have Trinity send you the venue details. She's got excellent taste, you know." Of course she does. Trinity, the golden child. Trinity, who somehow never has to pay for anything despite her husband's real estate empire. The next few weeks became a blur of vendor calls and budget adjustments. Every time I thought we'd finalize something, Trinity would call. "The flowers you picked are so basic," she said one afternoon. "Mom deserves better than carnations. I found these gorgeous imported roses." "The roses are triple the price." "God, Eloise, it's mom and dad's 30th. Don't be so cheap." Rich, coming from someone who hadn't contributed a dime. The final blow came yesterday. I was at my favorite coffee shop with my best friend Lindsay when the email arrived. The final invoice, 18,437 lire and 50 dollars. "Holy shit," Lindsay whispered, peering at my screen. "That's insane. Tell them no." I already had my banking app open. "They're my parents. They're taking advantage of you again." I completed the transfer, feeling numb. "It's fine. It's just money." "Just money?" "Eloise, that's more than most people spend on their own wedding." My phone buzzed. A text from mom. "Trinity showed me the final plans. We had to make some last minute upgrades. You understand, right?" "No, thank you." No acknowledgement of the amount. Just another assumption that Eloise would handle it. "You know what the worst part is?" I said to Lindsay, setting my phone face down. "They'll probably spend the whole party talking about how successful Trinity is while treating me like their quirky disappointment who never quite got her life together." Lindsay reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Then why do it?" I stared at my phone, watching as another text came in, Trinity this time, demanding changes to the menu. Something inside me shifted, like a gear finally clicking into place after years of grinding. "You're right," I said slowly. "Why am I doing this?" "Eloise, no, really, why am I paying nearly $20,000 to throw a party where I'll be treated like an embarrassment?" I picked up my phone and opened my email. The event manager's contact information stared back at me. Royal Washington, professional, discreet, and most importantly, contractually obligated to follow the instructions of the person who signed the checks. "What are you thinking?" Lindsay asked, recognition dawning in her eyes. I smiled for what felt like the first time in weeks. "I'm thinking that if I'm paying for this party, maybe it's time I got my money's worth." The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom sparkled like a champagne bubble, all crystal and gold, exactly as Trinity had envisioned. I arrived early, smoothing down my simple black dress, expensive but understated. The event manager, Royal, greeted me with a professional nod. Everything's set up according to specifications, Ms. Eloise. I watched the staff arrange elaborate centerpieces. And the payment processing? All vendors are clear on protocol. Nothing moves without your direct approval. Perfect. I tucked that information away like a loaded gun. The guests started arriving at 6. I stood near the entrance, accepting hugs from relatives I barely knew. Mom swept in wearing a designer gown that probably cost more than my first car. She air kissed my cheek. Oh, honey, you went with black? It's not a funeral. You look beautiful, Mom. She was already scanning the room. Have you seen your sister? Trinity said she had a surprise. As if summoned, Trinity and her husband Jasper made their entrance. She wore red because, of course, she did. Heads turned. Mom rushed over, leaving me mid sentence. There's my successful girl, Dad boomed, embracing Trinity. And Jasper, my boy, heard about that new development deal. Brilliant. I sipped my wine and watched the show. Trinity held court, describing their recent vacation in Bali. Jasper caught my eye and smirked. Eloise, he called out. Still doing that? What is it, graphic design thing? I own an agency. Right, right, making little logos and such. You know, if you ever want a real job, I could use someone to handle our social media. Trinity laughed. Oh, honey, Eloise isn't corporate material. She's our free spirit. More relatives clustered around them. I drifted toward the bar, where my cousin Genesis gave me a sympathetic look. They're really something, aren't they? They're really something, I agreed, ordering another wine. Mom appeared beside me, her smile tight. Eloise, dear, the appetizers seem a bit sparse. Didn't we discuss having more variety? We did. Then you upgraded the flowers. Well, it's just that everyone's commenting on how lovely Trinity's choices are. The roses really make the room. Trinity's choices, I repeated. Interesting, since I paid for everything. Mom's face darkened. You shouldn't expect gratitude for just doing what any daughter should. The words hit like a slap. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folder of receipts, setting it deliberately next to my wine glass. Every invoice, every upgrade, every last minute addition, all with my name on them. What's that? Mom asked. Insurance. She frowned. Don't be dramatic, Eloise. It's not attractive. I watched her walk away, joining Dad as he regaled someone with stories about Trinity's childhood achievements. My phone buzzed, a text from Lindsay. How's it going? I typed back, they haven't even acknowledged I paid for it. Those ungrateful what or want me to crash it? Despite everything, I smiled. Then I saw Jasper pointing at me, whispering something that made Trinity laugh. My smile faded. The event manager passed by, checking on details. I caught his arm. Royal? Yes, Miss Eloise. If I need things to end prematurely, how fast can you make that happen? He raised an eyebrow, professional mask never slipping. Everything here operates at your discretion. One word from you, and we can shut it down in minutes. I nodded slowly, watching my father raise his glass for a toast. He was going to speak soon. I knew that look, the one that usually preceded his most cutting jokes. Good to know, I said. Royal studied me carefully. Should I put the staff on standby? Through the crowd, I could see Trinity adjusting Mom's hair, both of them laughing. Dad was gathering everyone's attention, that familiar, cruel twinkle in his eye as he glanced my way. The folder of receipts felt heavy beside my hand. $18,000 of proof that I wasn't the failure they painted me as. $18,000 of ammunition. Yes, I said quietly. I think it's time we gave them a party they'll never forget. Royal nodded once and disappeared into the crowd. I picked up my wine glass and the folder, moving closer to hear Dad's speech. After all, if you're going to burn bridges, you might as well light the match at exactly the right moment. The band played softly as Dad tapped his glass with a spoon. The crystal rang out and conversations died down. I positioned myself near the back, folder clutched in one hand, wine in the other. Friends. Family. Dad began, his voice carrying that practiced charm he used to close business deals. 30 years ago, I married the most beautiful woman in the room. Appreciative chuckles rippled through the crowd. Mom beamed. And somehow, she's still the most beautiful woman in the room. He paused for effect. Well, tied with our daughter Trinity. Trinity preened, smoothing her red dress. Jasper wrapped an arm around her waist. You know, when Trinity was born, I knew she was destined for greatness. Top of her class, married to a brilliant businessman, giving us the grandchildren we always dreamed of. My phone buzzed. Lindsay again. You okay? They don't deserve any of this. I didn't respond. Dad was building to something. I could feel it. And then there's our youngest, he said, turning toward me. The crowd followed his gaze. Our little bohemian free spirit over there in the corner. I lifted my glass in mock salute. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Not quite what we hoped for, career wise? He chuckled. Our biggest regret, honestly, but what can you do? Laughter erupted. Trinity's carried above the rest, sharp and cruel. Mom clinked her glass with Dad's, unbothered by his words. The room spun slightly. Biggest regret. The words echoed in my head, mixing with every other dismissive comment, every comparison to Trinity, every moment they'd made me feel small. Still, Dad continued, at least she's good for funding a party. More laughter. Jasper actually slapped his knee. I set down my wine glass with a sharp click. The folder felt heavy in my hands. $18,000 of receipts. $18,000 of their true colors, printed in black and white. Thank you all for coming, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room. Heads turned, surprised to hear me speak. Eloise, Mom warned, but I was already walking toward Royal, who stood ready by the service entrance. Is everything prepared? I asked quietly. He nodded. On your word. Sweetheart, Dad called out. Don't interrupt. I'm not finished. Actually, I said, turning to face the crowd, you are. I handed Royal the folder. He opened it, reviewed the contents with practiced efficiency, and spoke into his earpiece. Kill the music! The band stopped mid-song. The sudden silence was deafening. What's happening? Trinity demanded. The party's barely started. I smiled, feeling oddly calm. No, the party's over. Actually, it was over the moment Dad called me his biggest regret. Oh, don't be so sensitive, Mom said. He was joking. Funny. I'm not laughing. I turned to Royal. Proceed. He nodded again. Waiters began removing plates from tables. The bar shutters closed with a decisive click. You can't do this? Trinity shrieked. Actually, I can. You see, while you were taking credit for choosing the flowers, and Dad was making jokes about my career, and Mom was pretending this whole event materialized out of thin air, I was the one paying for everything. The crowd murmured. Some guests started gathering their belongings, sensing drama. Every invoice, every upgrade, every last minute addition Trinity demanded, it all goes through me, and I'm done funding my own humiliation. Dad's face turned red. Now listen here. No, you listen. For $18,000, I bought myself the right to finally be heard. Movement at the entrance caught my attention. An elderly woman entered, supported by Genesis, my grandmother Sierra, who I hadn't seen in years. Interesting timing, she said, surveying the chaos. Just like the baby shower they canceled when Eloise was born. Mom went pale. Mother, you weren't invited. No, Sierra said sharply. I never am. But I think it's time we discussed why, don't you? The room fell silent. Even Trinity stopped mid protest. What is she talking about? I asked, but I could see the answer in Mom's face, in the way Dad suddenly couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Sierra walked toward me, her cane tapping against the marble floor. There are some stories they never told you, dear, about why you were always the regret. I looked at my parents, these people who had shaped my life with their disapproval and demands. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. Well, I said, since I paid for the venue, I think we have time for a story. You were 16, Sierra began, when you asked me why your mother never looked at your childhood photos. The memory hit like lightning, Dad's voice echoing through our old house. She's just not trying hard enough. Trinity never gave us these problems. Mother, don't, Mom warned, but Sierra continued. I remember the day you were born. Your mother wouldn't hold you. Trinity stepped forward. This isn't appropriate. Quiet, I snapped. For once in your life, Trinity, just be quiet. The remaining guests huddled near the walls, watching the scene unfold like a theater production. Royal directed his staff to continue clearing tables, the quiet clink of dishes punctuating the tension. You were born during what your parents call their rough patch. Sierra said. But it wasn't financial trouble that made it rough. Dad moved toward Mom, protective. Lucille, we should go. Tell her, Sierra demanded, or I will. Mom's hands trembled as she clutched her champagne glass. It was a difficult time. Because Dad was sleeping with his secretary? Sierra's voice cut through the room like a blade. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Trinity's mouth fell open. You were pregnant with me, I said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. When he had the affair. I threatened to cut your mother out of my will if she didn't stop punishing you for his sins, Sierra continued. But she found other ways, didn't she? The memories cascaded. My 10th birthday party, canceled because I was too difficult. My art school acceptance letter met with cold silence while Trinity's business school admission warranted a family vacation. Every achievement diminished, every milestone overshadowed. You were supposed to be our fresh start, Mom whispered, but every time I looked at you, I remembered. Stop, Dad interrupted. This is ancient history. Ancient? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. You called me your biggest regret 10 minutes ago. Royal appeared at my elbow. Miss Eloise, the vendors are asking about payment for continued service. Let me handle it, Jasper said, reaching for his wallet. We can salvage this. No, I turned to Royal. Show them the contracts. Everything stops now. You can't do this. Trinity's voice rose to a shriek. This is Mom and Dad's anniversary. An anniversary funded by their biggest regret. I faced my parents. How does it feel to have your perfect night ruined by something beyond your control? Mom stepped toward me. Eloise, please, please what? Please keep quiet. Please keep paying. Please keep pretending I deserve this treatment because of when I was born? The band began packing their instruments. Guests whispered and gathered their coats. You're making a scene, Dad hissed. No, I'm making a point. I turned to address the remaining crowd. Thank you all for coming. Unfortunately, my budget doesn't cover the cost of decades of betrayal and emotional abuse. The party's over. Genesis appeared beside me, squeezing my hand. Sierra stood firm, her presence a shield against my parents' glares. You'll regret this, Trinity threatened. I already regret every dollar I spent trying to buy your approval. I picked up my purse. But unlike you, Mom, I won't spend the next 28 years taking it out on someone else. The lights dimmed, Royals doing. In the half darkness, I saw my mother's face crumple, my father's mask of control finally crack. Trinity stood frozen, her perfect world tilting on its axis. Grandma, I said, would you like to get coffee? Sierra smiled. I'd love to, dear. We walked toward the exit, Genesis falling into step beside us. Behind us, I heard Trinity's shrill voice demanding someone fix this, Jasper arguing with the band about payment, my parents calling my name with increasing desperation. At the door, I turned one last time. By the way, Dad, I'm not a bohemian free spirit. I'm a successful business owner who just taught you a very expensive lesson about karma. The door closed behind us with a satisfying thud. In the lobby, Lindsay waited, car keys in hand. You okay? She asked. I looked at Sierra, who nodded encouragingly, then at Genesis, who grinned and linked her arm through mine. No, I answered honestly, but I will be. Through the ballroom doors, I could hear chaos erupting as vendors demanded payment and guests rushed to leave. The perfect social event was imploding, and for once I didn't feel responsible for fixing it. Come on, Lindsay said. I know a great coffee shop where we can hear the rest of these family secrets. As we walked out into the cool night air, my phone buzzed with messages I had no intention of reading. Some bridges are worth burning, especially when you're the one who paid to build them in the first place. The coffee shop was nearly empty at this hour. We claimed a corner booth, four women in evening wear amid the late night study crowd. Sierra's hands wrapped around her mug, her wedding ring catching the soft lighting. Your mother was 6 months pregnant with you, and I caught your father with his secretary, she said, at the company Christmas party, of all places. Classy, Lindsay muttered. I confronted Lucille that night. She said she already knew. Sierra's voice hardened. She'd known for months but was keeping quiet to maintain appearances. My phone buzzed again. Trinity's name flashed on the screen, followed by a stream of messages. The hotel is threatening to bill us for damages. Mom is hysterical. How could you embarrass us like this? Dad's lawyer will hear about this. I turned the phone face down. They're melting down, aren't they? Genesis asked. Complete nuclear meltdown. Sierra continued. When you were born, Lucille wouldn't even look at you. I told her she had two choices: start being a mother to both her daughters equally or lose her inheritance. That explains the bare minimum parenting, I said. She chose money over healing, Sierra sighed, but she found ways to punish you that I couldn't control. Small things: birthday parties canceled last minute, dance recitals she was too busy to attend. While Trinity got everything, I added. Trinity was her proof that the marriage was worth saving. You were her reminder of why it almost wasn't. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up to see Royal walking in, still in his event manager uniform. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said, but I thought you should know what happened after you left. Pull up a chair, Lindsay offered. This sounds good. Royal sat, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. I've managed hundreds of events, never seen anything quite like this. That bad? Your sister tried to write a personal check to the band. It bounced. He smiled slightly. Apparently, their vacation home renovations have left them a bit overextended. Genesis snorted. Karma's not just a bitch, she's an accountant. What about my parents? I asked. Your father tried to salvage his reputation by announcing you were having a mental episode. Unfortunately, one of the guests works for your biggest client. My stomach dropped. Margaret was there? She left me her card. Royal pulled out a business card and said, and I quote, tell Eloise I'm doubling our contract. Anyone who stands up to toxic family like that is exactly who I want handling my company's rebranding. Tears pricked at my eyes. Lindsay squeezed my hand. There's more, Royal continued. The hotel manager overheard your grandmother's revelation. She lost her own mother to suicide after a similar situation. She's voided all additional charges out of principle. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. You've destroyed your mother's happiness. I hope you're satisfied. Sierra peered at the message. Interesting how he's still blaming everyone but himself. Classic narcissist move, Lindsay agreed. Genesis leaned forward. So what happens now? Now? I took a deep breath. Now I do what I should have done years ago. I'm done funding their emotional pyramid scheme. They'll try to guilt you back, Sierra warned. Let them try. I've got receipts, literal and emotional. Royal stood to leave. Speaking of receipts, the final vendor payments were processed. Everything's officially closed out. Thank you, I said, for everything. He nodded. It was my pleasure, truly. After he left, we sat in comfortable silence. My phone had gone quiet. They'd either given up or were plotting their next move. You know what's funny? I said finally. All these years, I thought if I just paid enough, gave enough, achieved enough, they'd finally love me properly. And now? Genesis asked. Now I realize that was never going to happen. You can't buy love from people who've already sold their souls to their own lies. Sierra reached across the table and took my hand. Your mother made her choice 30 years ago. She chose appearances over healing, bitterness over growth. That's not your burden to bear anymore. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Mom. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I picked up the phone, typed 6 words, and hit send. No, Mom, I just stopped paying. Then I blocked their numbers, one by one, watching each name disappear like stars blinking out at dawn. Trinity, Dad, Mom, years of manipulation and guilt reduced to a series of taps on a screen. So, Lindsay said brightly, who's ready for dessert? I hear it's better when you're not serving it to people who don't deserve it. For the first time that night, I laughed freely. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply walking away, preferably in designer heels that you bought with your own success. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls and a viral social media storm. Someone had filmed Dad's biggest regret speech, and my response, the internet predictably had opinions. You're trending, Lindsay announced, barging into my apartment with coffee and bagels. The video has over 100,000 views? I groaned into my pillow. Fantastic. Actually, it might be. She turned her phone toward me. Check your business email. I grabbed my laptop and opened my inbox. It was flooded with messages. Saw the video. Need a designer with that kind of backbone. Your portfolio is impressive. Are you taking new clients? Would love to discuss rebranding opportunities. Holy shit, I whispered. My personal email was another story. Trinity had sent a novel length screed about family loyalty and public embarrassment. The irony was apparently lost on her. A knock at the door made us both jump. Genesis peeked in. Your grandmother's here, and you might want to see what's happening at your parents' house. I threw on clothes and followed them outside. 3 houses down from my parents' perfectly manicured lawn, a news van was parked. They're trying to spin it, Genesis explained as we drove past. Your dad gave an interview about his ungrateful daughter who ambushed their anniversary. Bold strategy, Lindsay muttered. We found Sierra at a small French cafe, looking remarkably composed for someone whose family was imploding on social media. Perfect timing, she said. I was just about to order breakfast and explain why your mother really named you Eloise. I slid into the seat across from her. I always assumed it was from the children's books. No. Sierra pulled an old leather journal from her bag. You were named after my mother, your great grandmother, the only person who ever stood up to your grandfather's abuse. She opened the journal, revealing yellowed pages filled with elegant handwriting. Your mother adored her. When Eloise, the first Eloise, died, Lucille was devastated. She promised to name her daughter after her, to carry on her strength. But then Dad's affair happened, I said, and suddenly the name became another reminder. She couldn't take it back without raising questions, but she could punish you for carrying it. The waiter arrived with coffee I ordered mechanically, my mind spinning. There's something else you should know, Sierra continued. Your great grandmother left a separate inheritance, one that skips a generation. Lindsay choked on her coffee. It was meant for your mother originally, Sierra explained. But when she chose to stay with your father, to perpetuate the cycle of abuse, the terms of the trust changed. What are you saying? I'm saying that your mother's bitterness isn't just about the affair. It's about the $3 million she lost when she failed to meet the trust's moral clause. Genesis whistled low. That's one hell of a karma payment. The money's been gathering interest for 28 years, Sierra said. It's yours now. All you have to do is sign. She pulled out an envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. This is why they're really panicking, I realized. They found out about this. Your father's secretary became his paralegal. She saw the trust documents come through yesterday. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Jasper. We can work something out. Your parents are willing to apologize publicly. Trinity, too. Just be reasonable about the inheritance. I showed the message to the others. Wow, Genesis said. They're not even pretending it's about family anymore. It never was, Sierra replied. It was always about control. I stared at the trust documents. The amount made me dizzy. What would great grandmother Eloise do? I asked. Sierra smiled. She'd tell you that the best revenge isn't spending the money on them, it's spending it on yourself. I picked up the pen. One condition, I said. You have to help me donate a portion to domestic abuse survivors, women who need help leaving toxic situations. Like mother, like grandmother, Sierra said softly. That's exactly what the first Eloise would have wanted. I signed my name, Eloise, feeling the weight of its history for the first time. Not a burden, but a legacy of strength. My phone buzzed again. Trinity. Mom's having a breakdown. Hope you're happy. I thought about the trust, about the video, about years of calculated cruelty disguised as family love. Blocker 2? Lindsay suggested. No, I said, typing a response. I want them to see what happens next. I sent back 3 words. Watch me thrive. Then I picked up my coffee, clinked cups with my real family, the ones who chose to stay, and started planning how to honor both Eloise's legacies. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just walking away, it's building something beautiful from the ashes of what you leave behind. 1 month after the anniversary party, I sat in my newly expanded office reviewing applications for the Eloise Foundation, our new nonprofit supporting women leaving toxic family situations. The viral video had evolved into something bigger than family drama. It had become a movement. My intercom buzzed. Miss Eloise, your sister's here. I looked up to see Trinity through the glass walls, wearing jeans instead of her usual designer clothes. She looked smaller somehow. Send her in. She entered hesitantly, clutching her purse. Nice office. What do you want, Trinity? She sank into a chair. Jasper left me. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. She laughed bitterly. But you should be happy to know those vacation homes were mortgaged to the hilt. We're losing everything. I kept my face neutral. Again, what do you want? Mom and Dad are selling their house, moving into a condo. Her voice cracked. Everything's falling apart and it's your fault. My fault? I set down my pen. Not Dad's for cheating, not Mom's for taking it out on me, not yours for helping them. We were a family. No, we were a pyramid scheme with better marketing. Trinity's face crumpled. I didn't know. About Dad's affair, about why Mom treated you that way. I swear. But you enjoyed it. I. She looked down. Yes. At least she was finally honest about something. Did you know, I said, that every time I achieved something, Mom would call you first? To make sure you were okay? To reassure you that you were still the favorite? She was protecting me. From what? Your sister's success? That's not protection, Trinity. That's manipulation. My phone lit up. A text from Genesis. Incoming drama. Your parents just pulled up. Let me guess, I said to Trinity. This isn't a solo mission. On cue, Mom and Dad burst through my office door. Dad had lost weight. Mom's designer clothes had been replaced by department store brands. Enough is enough, Dad announced. This revenge has gone too far. I leaned back in my chair. This isn't revenge. This is consequences. We're your parents. Really? Because last month I was your biggest regret. Mom stepped forward. We made mistakes. Mistakes? I pulled up the viral video on my computer, turned it toward them. Watch it again. Watch yourselves. That's not a mistake. That's decades of calculated cruelty. They flinched at their own words playing back. The foundation launches next week, I continued. Great grandmother Eloise's money is going to help other women recognize what mom couldn't, that staying in toxic situations costs more than leaving ever could. You're bankrupting us, Dad growled. No, your choices bankrupted you. I just stopped funding them. Trinity spoke up. Can't we fix this? As a family? Fix what? The fact that mom's inheritance went to me? That your perfect lives were built on credit cards and lies? That the daughter you dismissed built something meaningful while you were busy tearing her down? We said we're sorry, Mom cried. No, you said you're sorry you got caught. Sorry you lost the money. Sorry your reputations are ruined. Not once have you apologized for what you actually did. Security appeared in the doorway. Genesis must have called them. It's time for you to leave, I said. This isn't over, Dad threatened. Actually, it is. I have a foundation to run, a business to expand, and a life to live without you in it. They were escorted out, Trinity trailing behind them. Through the glass, I watched their shoulders slump as they walked away. Three people who had finally lost the power to hurt me. My phone buzzed with messages from my real family. Lindsay, need backup? Genesis, wine night. Sierra, so proud of you, dear. I smiled, then opened my laptop to finish reviewing applications. A new one had just come in, a young woman trying to leave her emotionally abusive parents. Her story could have been mine if I hadn't found the strength to walk away. I approved her application immediately, then added a note. Your future is worth more than their approval. The Foundation's tagline flashed on my screen, breaking cycles, building futures. Below it, a quote from the first Eloise's journal. Sometimes the strongest family ties are the ones we choose to cut. My office door opened again. This time it was Royal, now our Foundation's event coordinator. The launch party venue is confirmed, he said. Should I put your family on the do not admit list? I thought about Trinity's jeans, Mom's department store clothes, Dad's hollow threats. No need, I replied. They couldn't afford the tickets anyway. He smiled. Karma really does keep receipts, doesn't it? Yes, I said, looking at the Foundation's growing waitlist. And so do I. The Eloise Foundation's launch party buzzed with energy. Women from our first round of grant recipients mingled with donors, sharing stories of survival and renewal. I watched from the sidelines as Sierra charmed potential investors, her silver hair gleaming under the chandeliers. Your great grandmother would be proud, Genesis said, appearing beside me with two champagne glasses, both of the Foundation and of you. I keep expecting them to show up, I admitted, to try one last manipulation. They won't. Lindsay joined us, smartphone in hand. Trinity just posted on social media. They've moved to Florida. Apparently, Dad found a job selling timeshares. How fitting, Genesis snorted. He's still selling fake dreams. Royal approached with a concerned look. Miss Eloise, there's a situation at the entrance. A young woman says she's your cousin Margaret. My heart stopped. I hadn't seen Margaret since we were kids. She'd disappeared after a huge fight with her parents, my dad's brother and his wife, who'd been just as toxic as my parents. Let her in? Margaret looked exactly like her social media photos, thin, nervous, but with determined eyes. She clutched a worn journal. I saw the video, she said without preamble. And then I found this in my mom's attic. She handed me the journal. Inside, letters between her mother and my mom detailed their shared mission to toughen up their daughters by breaking them down. They had a system, Margaret's voice shook. Every time we achieved something, they'd find ways to diminish it. They called it keeping us humble. Keeping us controlled, I corrected. I want to help, she said, with the foundation. These journals, people need to see how systematic emotional abuse can be. Before I could respond, Sierra appeared. Margaret? Little Maggie? They embraced, tears flowing. Another survivor, another story, another piece of the puzzle clicking into place. Ladies and gentlemen, Royal announced, please welcome our founder to the stage. The crowd gathered. I saw familiar faces. The event manager from my parents' anniversary, now our volunteer coordinator, the hotel manager who'd waived the charges, now a board member, even my old client Margaret, who'd doubled my contract sitting in the front row. I took the microphone, my hands steady. Welcome to the Eloise Foundation's official launch. We're here because cycles don't break themselves, they're broken by people brave enough to say, enough. The room hushed. My great grandmother Eloise left behind more than money. She left a blueprint for freedom. Tonight, we're honoring that legacy by announcing our first initiative, the Phoenix Project. Screens around the room lit up with our new program details. Every woman who receives our help will become a mentor to another woman trying to leave toxic family dynamics, because the opposite of abuse isn't just escape, it's building something better. Applause erupted. In the back, I saw Margaret clutching her journal, nodding. Someone recently asked if I regret destroying my family's perfect image. I continued. The truth is, you can't destroy what was never real, but you can build something authentic from the ashes. More applause. Sierra wiped away tears. So, no, I don't regret exposing the truth. I don't regret using my inheritance to help others. And I definitely don't regret charging my parents' anniversary party to their credit cards. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Genesis high fived Lindsay. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting free, and then holding the door open for others to follow. The celebration lasted late into the night. Margaret shared more journals, each one a roadmap of calculated manipulation. Sierra told stories about the first Eloise, painting a picture of strength echoing through generations. Near midnight, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Mom and Dad saw the foundation launch online. They're telling everyone you stole their inheritance. Should we worry? Trinity, using a new number. I showed the message to my chosen family, Lindsay, Genesis, Sierra, and now Margaret. They waited for my response. I typed, they can tell whatever story they want. I'm too busy writing my own. Then I turned back to the room full of survivors becoming warriors, mentors becoming sisters, strangers becoming family. Ready to change some lives? Royal asked, clipboard in hand. I looked around at my real inheritance. Not money or status, but the strength to break cycles and build bridges. The power to turn pain into purpose. The wisdom to know that sometimes the happiest endings start with walking away. More than ready, I replied. Let's get to work. Because that's the thing about karma. It doesn't just keep receipts, it pays them forward.